Playoff special. I'm going to be a little bit more formal on this one. I'm going to talk a little bit more like a broadcaster because you guys deserve the highest quality, especially when it comes to playoff time. So welcome everybody to the recap of the first round of the playoffs. As you remember at home, the League of Ordinary Gentlemen start their playoffs off a week earlier than basically any other league. Week 14 saw the first round of the playoffs and saw two matchups between teams competing, as two playoff teams also had a bye. And let's not forget about the Toilet Bowl, where the last place finisher will get a punishment. So there's relevance there as well. So as we always do, or as we always try to do, SportsCenter may lead with the primetime special episode or special matchup to kind of start off with the best first, but we like saving the best for last. So here, let's talk about the Toilet Bowl a little bit quicker, of course, because it's the Toilet Bowl and they don't deserve full, sorry guys, they don't deserve full recaps, but let's talk quickly about it. Crucifier made the playoffs, as we mentioned, Crucifier, as we mentioned, we thought would make the playoffs earlier in the season, but Crucifier did not end up making it. They still, though, showing that they potentially deserve to make it, finishing with 207 points. That's right, 207 points. I don't know how many times this season we've seen over 200 points, and we're seeing it from someone in the Toilet Bowl, and we're seeing it from someone who, as I mentioned earlier in the season, if they make the playoffs, they're going to be dangerous. Unfortunately for them, they didn't make the playoffs. They would have been dangerous, as they got what the easiest probably playoff win we've seen, or consolation win we've seen in a long time, 100 points over Team the Prophet. This, I would say, ends the season for the Prophet, but the Prophet actually now in the final matchup to try and avoid being the Toilet Bowl winner. I mean, is there a more appropriate way to end this for Team the Prophet? Right now, they went Jefferson, who doesn't get one snap. And this is also maybe an example. Maybe the Prophet isn't putting as much effort as they could, because pre-game, there were tweets that said from Schefter that if he had to start a Lions running back, it would be Reynolds. And Reynolds was the third guy no one was talking about outside of the name I can't pronounce and Jefferson getting the 1-2. So at that point, it was clear Jefferson wasn't a viable starter. You still go with Jefferson. Fortunately for you, it didn't matter because you got absolutely blown out from the team with absolute firepower. Dalvin finally giving you that crazy huge week you were expecting all season. Rodgers goes 40 points. You get a huge week from Lockett, despite DK again, the two wide receivers in Seattle again, not really proving to be great. Crazy to see Cooper Kupp in the consolation bracket. It was all working for Crucifier. Crucifier avoids the last place punishment, but I still have to imagine this win is bittersweet, as he knows that he most likely could have made a serious run if he squeezed into the playoffs. The next matchup in the consolation bracket we saw was Sons of Chaos versus the Plague. Sons of Chaos, another team that we were saying all season, if they make the playoffs, they could make noise. But this team, of course, missed the playoffs as well. And with what you expected to be a pretty significant win, actually wasn't a huge blowout. The reason that is because James Robinson, the nightmare season continues for James Robinson. Something that could have potentially held him back in the regular season continues here. 6 carries, 4 yards. Urban Meyer must be your least favorite coach in the world, but you still get the massive performances from guys you expect from, being Brady, being Fournette. You get that Ayuk game-winning touchdown. Monty has a pretty solid game with a ton of dump-offs. It all worked for you pretty well. 144 in a consolation bracket game is almost always going to get you the win, which it did this week. Whereas for the Plague, man, I mean, you're a good enough team where I would expect you to be able to beat the Prophet and avoid last place punishment, but you're not in the clear because, again, as mentioned, you don't have a crazy stellar team, especially with some weakness at the wide receiver position. But fortunately for you, got double digits all around in the wide receiver position. Chase Claypool, despite being not the smartest guy in the world, does get you a good amount of points. Osborne does get you a good amount of points with Thielen out, which he should be out next week as well. So that makes your wide receiver group a lot better, and I would expect you to win that consolation game. But we will do predictions at the end. At the end, we'll do the playoff predictions. Let's just give you Toilet Bowl predictions now, but stay tuned for playoff predictions. In the last place game, we're going to have Team the Prophet against Team El Professor. Our prediction, we already said it, so I hate to be a spoiler. Our prediction in that final for the last place consolation is the winner will be El Professor. El Professor will put up 131 points. The loser will be Team the Prophet, ending the season on a dismal 97-point game and getting that last place punishment. The 7th place game, I doubt you guys care about. I think Crucifier is in a really good place, but both those teams are honestly, in my opinion, playoff caliber teams. So it's a shame. It's a shame they couldn't make it. I won't make a prediction on that one. Okay, playoffs. This is what we're here for. Let's take a quick note that Glory Hole got 132 points, and Pain Train got 160 points. Both not enough to beat the 2 winning teams this week. But you had the bye. You didn't need to stress about it. Let's talk about the teams that played this week. The first matchup was between El Captain and TBD. TBD, it was determined, unfortunately. It was to be determined how the season would finish. It's now determined. And you are heading home, unfortunately, with a loss. Mahomes is able to give you a pretty solid game. So at least you can't blame the demise of your team on Mahomes like it kind of seemed throughout the season might happen. But when you looked at this wide receiver group, you knew it was absolute panic time. Keenan Allen out with COVID absolutely killed you because you had to lean on some guys that should not be starting in playoff matchups. And those 2 guys being Marvin Jones and Westbrook Ikhine. I don't know how to pronounce it. Marvin Jones probably would have started for you if Keenan was still in, and he actually got you 6 catches, 70 yards. You can't be upset about that. But Westbrook was an absolute stretch play. Only 3 targets. He was able to catch all of them, only for 31 yards. And that only gets you 6.1 points. You would have needed a monster performance from both these guys to actually finish on top. But what it really came down to is you had to play Madison as well, despite Dalvin Cook being back. And at that point, you have, with those 3 guys starting, you were basically done. I mean, this was going to be a very tough game to win. And we should put this all in context that you found a way to lose this game despite the gift of Lamar Jackson finishing with under 1 point. Insanely bad luck for El Captain. It will be a concern moving forward, but El Captain able to get the win with Lamar Jackson being injured and with Hilliard only getting you 1.3 points. And a lot of that has to do with James Conner 33.5 and Devontae Adams 38.1. This happened in my league exactly the same as well. These 2 guys on that Sunday, Monday night back-to-back, absolutely killing it, giving a lot of people the wins. In my league, someone had both these guys too. And that's essentially what did it for you. You also had Van playing in that Monday night game, getting that long touchdown. But remarkable way to recover from really bad luck with the Lamar Jackson injury. But you do have to envision moving forward. You get Jonathan Taylor back. You have to envision this team taking a huge step up with the only hesitation being what's going to happen at quarterback. Who are you going to lean on? Is Lamar going to play? Or are you going to have to lean on someone else? It makes your team a little bit weaker, but you find your way into the final 4 teams, and congratulations to you. Team Livin' La Vida Yoda. Oh, and one more note here. 4 weeks ago, as you all remember, we did a percentage to win it all special. Let's talk about those teams. Glory Hole was number 1, 30%. They're still in it, of course. Pain Train was number 2, 11%. By the way, Pain Train, give me some credit, was the 5th seed when I did that. They ended up with the bye. So the 1 and 2 I got exactly right. So there's something going on here that's on. But let's talk about what I missed. 3 was Sons of Chaos. Sons of Chaos with the absolute collapse to get to the 8th seed. Again, they're clearly at that caliber. They had more points than everyone up to the 4 seed. 5th most points in the league. Should have made it, but unfortunately luck does play a big part of this. But then I had Livin' La Vida Yoda, who we're about to talk about. We had Crucifier, who also missed it. Crucifier also missed it. TBD, Chairman, and then Captain was all the way down at number 8. So to El Captain, congratulations on making me look like an idiot. I think you totally deserve to be there. Well earned. A team that we were always high on, Team Livin' La Vida Yoda, with a gigantic performance. You needed a big performance. You got it. The Chairman, let's talk about first, puts up 140. There's some frustration here because you get 15 carries from A.J. Dillon, but he gets tripled and scored by the 5-carry Aaron Jones. You get enough action for Zeke to produce, and he isn't able to do it for you. He only catches 1 of his 6 targets, which was a big part of his shortness of performances. You get enough from Josh Allen and Diggs combo. You get enough from Mike Evans. You get enough from Mike Williams. But at the end of the day, it came down to depth with the Damian Harris and Darrell Henderson having to sit it out. You had to go with Crowder, who only gets you 4.9. Absolutely killer. And then also Dalton Schultz only getting 1.4. So With the weak RB performances, the weak depth, you're not going to be able to escape a playoff win, especially against a good team like Livin Levidiota, and that's what happened, because Livin Levidiota gets a massive game from Big Ben. Huge kudos for that start. Big Ben giving you those points. You would have gotten a lot of criticism. Najee Harris giving you a huge game. Alvin Kamara giving you a huge game. You were able to overlook some weak performances from guys that, you needed more from. Sony Michel on a week you'd expect him to go off, only gets you 7.9. Ricky Seals-Jones, you don't expect much out of, but only 1.8. Hollywood Brown, only 9.1 because of the Lamar injury. The real story here is the guys you performed expected to do well, but then you got Big Ben and you got Hunter Renfrow giving you monster performances, getting you a huge win. Huge win as you get ready for next week. This team is going to look weaker next week. They're not getting much reinforcements, and you do have Hollywood potentially not with Lamar, and you do have, Big Ben, you'd expect to regress. You might have Waller back, I think, for the Raiders if Renfrow would take a step down, and then you probably have Darrell Henderson coming back for Sony Michel. So this team does take a step down, but again, a huge win, a huge way to get yourself to the Final Four, and now we will talk about our Final Four predictions. In the first game, Glory Hole is going to be taking on the winner of the 3-6 game, which was Chairman versus Livin Levidiota. We just talked about Livin Levidiota. We think Livin Levidiota, despite putting up 175, is going to take a step down. We think this is going to be a very competitive game, but we do not see Team Glory Hole going down. We see Glory Hole putting up a 181 dominating performances because they are dominating, and we see Team Livin Levidiota putting up a respectable 142, which would make this game two strong teams that deserve to be there, but would not make it that exciting down the stretch because Team Glory Hole is going to dominate. That's your preview for that game. Then we have Pain Train against El Captain. We also talked about how we think El Captain is going to take a step down. You probably have spoiled already what our prediction is going to be. We see Pain Train getting the win. Pain Train not able to match Glory Hole's ridiculous performance. They get almost exactly projection is our prediction. Their projection is 155. They're going to get 154 against, yes, I'm completely talking out of my you-know-what. They're going to go against El Captain. El Captain is going to, unfortunately, have an off week, put up 127, and take a tough loss. We're going to see Glory Hole and Pain Train in the finals, and I'm excited to confirm that this is what happens next week in our recap. I wish everyone the best of luck. This has been a lot of fun up to this point, and I hope you enjoy the semis. Goodbye.